In our observations of remarkable individuals, we often find those who, through unwavering dedication and persistent practice, seem to meld seamlessly with their craft. Consider Cao Fu, a figure from Taoist literature who aspired to become a master charioteer. To achieve this, he apprenticed under a renowned expert known for his exceptional skill. Years went by, and Cao Fu diligently served his master without receiving formal instruction or lessons. He merely performed his duties and followed orders. Despite the lack of direct teaching, Cao Fu did not lose heart. Instead, he demonstrated unwavering commitment, showing his master that he was deserving of the knowledge he sought to gain. Through his steadfast effort and patience, he ultimately proved his worthiness to be taught the profound art of charioteering. One day, the master finally offered Cao Fu a lesson, but it was not what he had anticipated. Instead of beginning with the chariot, the master placed two wooden posts in the ground and instructed Cao Fu to leap from one to the other repeatedly. Over time, Cao Fu practiced diligently until he could glide effortlessly between the posts. The master then unveiled the true essence of the exercise. The lesson was not merely about physical strength or technical skill, but about achieving a harmonious union of intention and action. When the reins, hands, body, and mind were in perfect sync, the chariot became an extension of Cao Fu himself. In this state of unity, his actions became effortless, and he experienced the flow state, where every movement was fluid and natural. The master stated, "When your mind is clear and your body is relaxed, you can control 6 bridles without confusion, and 24 hooves will step where you direct them. The wheels of your chariot will move forward and in reverse, and turn left and right with precision and control. You will drive on mountain roads with the same ease as on the plains. Your driving will remain consistent, whether your horses are treading near the edge of a cliff or running across flat grassland. This is the essence of what I have to teach, so remember it well." The flow state, often referred to as being in the zone, is an enigmatic phenomenon. It represents an optimal state of performance, a condition our minds admire but cannot summon at will. Ironically, the more we attempt to force ourselves into the flow state, the more it eludes us. The frustration of not achieving it pushes it even further away, until we become so exasperated that we abandon the effort and shift our focus elsewhere. It is precisely in these moments of relinquishment that the flow state often emerges, akin to a fish approaching the fisherman's hook just as he ceases trying. The flow state is elusive, yet within reach, something that cannot be seized by force but instead arrives when we let go. It is not something we can grasp, rather, it grasps us when we allow it to happen. I've dedicated quite a bit of discussion to the flow state on this channel, primarily from a Taoist philosophical perspective, focusing on the concept of Wu Wei, which translates to effortless action. In this video, I want to revisit the flow state, but this time, I will delve into the psychological dimension. What occurs in our brain when we enter the flow state? What does academic research reveal about it? Why is it so elusive? And most intriguingly, how can we achieve it? This video explores the psychology of flow. By the way, if you enjoy reading, check out my 2 anthologies, where ancient thought meets the musings of a modern mind. Let's begin with a personal story. For as long as I can remember, I have been an overthinker and overanalyzer. Much of my life has been spent in my head, analyzing, daydreaming, and contemplating the past and future, often neglecting the present moment. Recently, I learned how to drive a car, which turned out to be one of the most challenging things I've ever had to learn. My driving instructor pointed out that my tendency to overthink was my greatest obstacle. I would analyze everything excessively, which interfered with my driving. After much practice, I finally obtained my license. As I continued driving, I noticed that when I'm too much in my head, I become anxious in busy traffic and drive more nervously. However, there are moments when I suddenly feel a deep connection with my car, the road, and the surrounding traffic. It feels as though the crowded highway is one giant organism, and I am an integral part of it. In these moments, I experience the flow state. When contemplating the flow state during driving, I immediately think about a recent trip with my mom and sister to the Ardennes, a forest region in Belgium and Luxembourg, extending into France and Germany, with hills, ridges, and rivers, just a few hours away from the flatlands I'm used to. Coming from the Netherlands, where the landscape is as flat as a pancake, driving in the hills presents a unique challenge. The first thing I noticed was that my car responded differently when going up a mountain compared to descending one, which is basic physics. However, this difference startled the Dutch operating system in my brain, which had no software installed for dealing with elevations. This was my baptism of fire. My first time driving abroad on different terrain. At the beginning of the trip, I felt slightly anxious. I was about to expand my comfort zone, trying to plan, analyze, and sort out all possible scenarios in my head. I wanted to impress my mother and sister with my driving skills. I was also worried about the notoriously bad Belgian roads and my unfamiliarity with the traffic rules of our southern neighbors. As we drove, passing through the city of Eindhoven and crossing the Limburg province toward the border, dark clouds gathered, and thunder and lightning began to appear all around us. It started raining cats, dogs, Democrats, Republicans, and Eurosceptics. Visibility dropped so much that I could barely see the driver ahead of me, let alone check what was happening 100 meters ahead. My baptism of fire quickly turned into a baptism of terrible weather and a ridiculously chaotic highway. I remember that moment pushed me into the present. I had no choice but to ignore all discursive thoughts and focus on driving. I stopped trying to drive well and simply drove well without even intending to. This sounds paradoxical because it is. When my desire to drive well ceased, I actually began to drive well. What started as an overanalyzing galore of desperation transformed into an effortless and unexpectedly delightful experience. Mountain sights and curling highways came and went. Cars and trucks overtook me, and I overtook them as if we were bees in a swarm, sharing a common consciousness, almost as if something greater than ourselves diligently orchestrated the spectacle of traffic driving between Liège and Namur. Oh, and the Belgian roads were pretty good, especially in the Ardennes. What baffled me was how euphoric it all felt. Just being there, one with the highway, the traffic, and the car. The deeper I fell into this state, the more my anxiety seemed alien and distant, unable to touch me. Looking back on my experience, I couldn't believe how smoothly it went. It felt surreal considering how dangerous driving is. To feel as comfortable behind the wheel as I would sitting on the couch watching Netflix, all while continually paying attention to the highly unpredictable and fast-changing environment. But any attempt to analyze and figure out what made my driving so effortless didn't yield satisfying answers. I remember my driving instructor telling me before my exam, "You can drive. You learned it." It's a simple yet profound statement. When we practice something diligently and long enough, the skills we acquire become ingrained within us. They become a part of us. So most of the time, it's not about consciously applying what we've learned. It's about removing the intellectual blockages, getting out of our own way, and allowing these abilities to surface naturally. The flow state is elusive, an enigma of the mind, or perhaps something beyond the mind. Yet many have sought to unravel its mysteries, to understand how it works and what triggers it. So how does it work? The remainder of this video delves into research and literature, exploring the psychology behind the flow state and how we can invoke it. One of the foremost experts on the flow state is Mihaly Csikszentmihalyi, a psychologist and university professor who authored the best-selling book Flow. For simplicity, I'll refer to him as Mihaly. Mihaly reveals that what makes an experience genuinely satisfying is a state of consciousness called flow. He defines the flow state as one in which people become so engrossed in an activity that nothing else seems to matter. The experience is so enjoyable that individuals will continue to pursue it even at great cost, simply for the sake of the activity itself. In his book, Mihaly provides vivid descriptions of the flow state. He writes, "It is what the sailor holding a tight course feels when the wind whips through her hair, when the boat lunges through the waves like a colt, sails, hull, wind, and sea humming in harmony that vibrates in the sailor's veins. It is what the painter feels when the colors on the canvas begin to set up a magnetic tension with each other, and a new thing, a living form takes shape in front of the astonished creator." Mihaly also observed that such optimal experiences do not depend on external circumstances. Even people in dire conditions, such as imprisonment in concentration camps, have experienced flow states. However, we often sabotage the flow state through what Mihaly calls a psychic entropy, a state of inner disorder and chaos in the mind. Psychic entropy is the opposite of the flow state. Instead of being focused, our attention is scattered. Instead of operating in the present moment, we are all over the place, lingering in the past and worrying about the future. Instead of merging action and awareness, they become separated by an overload of information. In a state of psychic entropy, generally, not much gets done. For example, imagine trying to work on an essay while your WhatsApp web application runs in the same browser. Instagram messages are coming in, you're listening to a podcast, and the television is on in the background. These constant interruptions create a sense of chaos in the mind. Similarly, multitasking can lead to psychic entropy, as doing too many things at once scatters one's attention. Interpersonal conflict is another significant cause of psychic entropy. When we experience conflict, it tends to occupy our minds. We replay arguments, imagine scenarios, and dwell on negative emotions. All these activities contribute to a state of inner chaos, making it difficult to achieve the focused and harmonious state required for flow. During my driving experience, I faced psychic entropy. Essentially, I had only one task, driving from point A to point B. However, an overload of information in my mind interfered with that single task, leading to anxiety and scattered attention. Amid this psychic entropy behind the wheel, I tried hard to drive well, striving for that smooth and effortless experience on the road. Initially, this effort did not yield the desired results, causing frustration and adding another layer to my psychic entropy. All this trying to drive as well as possible turned out to be counterproductive. Eventually, I realized that effort alone wouldn't suffice. You can't will yourself into a flow state through sheer force. The more we strive to achieve the flow state, the more elusive it becomes. It's only when we stop trying to conceptualize the flow state and let go of using intellect to attain it that it may surprise us by its arrival. From my driving experiences, it became clear that the flow state is not something to be achieved, but rather something to be allowed. But does this mean the flow state is consciously unattainable, purely elusive, and a random occurrence? Mihaly found that flow activities share common characteristics. They have rules and clear goals, and they provide immediate feedback. These elements give us a sense of control and allow us to track our progress. Despite their differences, all flow activities have one thing in common. They involve a transformation of the self, making it more complex. By complex, Mihaly refers to the development of skills, experiences, and knowledge. For instance, mastering rock climbing or painting involves this kind of growth. Flow occurs when such transformation takes place. When engaging in a flow activity, the challenge should match our skill level. Playing against vastly superior or inferior opponents won't likely induce a flow state. For instance, playing a video game against an extremely skilled player can be frustrating, while playing against a novice can be boring. Therefore, playing against opponents of a similar or slightly higher skill level is optimal to maintain the balance necessary for flow. So the flow state doesn't seem so mysterious. It's actually quite logical. It results from certain conditions, much like a dish results from a recipe. The flow state I experienced while driving was a fortunate coincidence of external and internal ingredients. Now the question remains, what can we consciously do to achieve the flow state? Understanding this balance of challenge and skill is crucial. Activities that push our abilities to their limits without overwhelming us are key. This equilibrium creates an environment where we can fully immerse ourselves in the task, leading to the flow state. By deliberately engaging in activities that meet these criteria, we can increase our chances of experiencing flow. When the poet becomes the poem, the driver becomes the drive, and the painter becomes the painting, that's the flow state. It's a state where trying has ceased, the conscious desire for optimal performance has faded, and you are fully present in the moment. The flow state is something that may naturally come. So how can we create these conditions? Here are some practical tips derived from Mihaly's work. 1. Do something you enjoy. Engage in activities that you find inherently enjoyable and fulfilling. 2. Find your challenge skill. Balance. Choose tasks that match your skill level with the appropriate amount of challenge. Too easy, and you'll get bored. Too difficult, and you'll get frustrated. 3. Set clear goals. Define clear, achievable goals to give direction and purpose to your activities. 4. Ensure immediate feedback. Engage in activities that provide immediate feedback, allowing you to adjust and improve as you go. 5. Focus on the task at hand. Concentrate fully on the present activity, letting go of distractions, planning, worrying, or ruminating about the past. 6. Go all the way. Immerse yourself completely in the task, giving it your full attention and effort. To enhance your focus, you can practice mindfulness and meditation. Rituals and warm-ups can also help prepare the mind for entering the flow state. By setting up these conditions, you can create an environment conducive to experiencing flow, allowing it to arise naturally and effortlessly. Our ancestors were closer to animals in terms of flow. There was the occasional psychic entropy in times of danger, hunger, or pain, but overall, they were free from the worries brought about by the complex societies of today. Is there a way back to such a simple mode of existing? It would be very difficult and almost impossible to operate in today's world. Thus, the challenge we face is to return to what is, in essence, a more primordial, harmonious mind state in the face of our highly complex, modern environment. What do you think? What triggers the flow state for you? Is it a particular activity, a specific setting, or a mental state that helps you enter this zone? Sharing our experiences can provide insights and perhaps help us all find more opportunities to experience flow in our everyday lives. Thank you for watching. If you find the video content useful, please give us a like, a subscription, or give us your comments so we have the motivation to make the next videos better.